A good evening from Washington. I'm Larry O'Connor, and I'm proud to be Larry O'Connor. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be a father. You could call me a proud boy. Oh, but if you do that, then, I get canceled and I get called a racist or something. What's with the Proud Boys? Why is that even a thing? Let's bring in Julie Kelly. She gets things done over there at American Greatness. She's covering the January 6th trials. I don't mean to laugh, but some of this is just so ridiculous, what's going on in D.C. with the January 6th trials and now the latest. So just if people aren't paying attention, they don't know, who are the Proud Boys? I know this name gets thrown around like there's some sort of like Stasi, like there's some sort of like the brown shirts of the Trump MAGA fascists. Who are the Proud Boys?
The Proud Boys really are just this random group of men. They call themselves Western chauvinists, meaning that they are adherents to Western philosophy, Western way of governance.
But we'll really have none of that. Oh,
absolutely.
now I understand why they're hated. Okay.
Now you see why they're a threat. And FBI Director Christopher Wray says that some of them are domestic terrorists. But you will recall, Larry, they really catapulted on the national scene when during a presidential debate in October of 2020, Fox News host Chris Wallace, along with Joe Biden, pushed and prompted Donald Trump to condemn the Proud Boys, who they claimed, think about this, the fall of 2020, they claimed that the Proud Boys were responsible for violence across the country.
Yeah.
They were trying to equate the Proud Boys with Antifa and BLM. Now, the Proud Boys were showing up in places like Portland to support the police who weren't doing anything, to protect the federal courthouse there. They also had some dust-ups with BLM and Antifa in Washington towards the end of 2020. But they have been targeted by this government, by this regime, the Biden Merrick Garland DOJ, and 5 members of the Proud Boys are now on trial facing seditious conspiracy charges for their participation in the events of January 6th.
And that brings us to the latest filing, motion filed in this hearing that reveals what appears to be quite a revelation with regard to undercover police officers being part of the Proud Boys or being an informant on the Proud Boys. What exactly is alleged here now?
Well, it's this steady drip of delayed discovery and evidence being produced by the government. In fact, there's so many confidential human sources or informants who were tied to the Proud Boys or members of the Proud Boys that, Larry, one of the defense attorneys joked in court a few weeks ago, told the judge, I want to go on record to say I am not now, nor have I ever been, a confidential human source, meaning an informant. So there are as many as 8, probably up to 15 FBI informants who were embedded in this group, are part of this group in the months before January 6th. Now, revelations, not only in this case, but in other January 6th cases, that the DC Metro Police had multiple undercover agents also embedded in the group on the ground January 6th. And Larry, 3 of them are on tape chanting along with Trump supporters, saying, whose house, our house, USA, USA. One of the Metro undercover officers is actually encouraging people in front of him they're saying, go, go, keep going, encouraging them to go towards the Capitol building. So this is information that the government, DOJ, has tried to conceal from the defendants and, of course, from the American public now for more than 2 years. But there is this steady drip of information.
Wow.
And it just raises more unanswered questions, especially the January 6th committee. Why wasn't this part of their investigation, or at least part of their report? Because we know numerous law enforcement agencies, both federal and local, had agents undercover and informants on the ground on January 6th. What were they doing? Why didn't they stop the insurrection?
Julie, I remember when I was young, quite young, but I remember in school learning about how the ACLU fought on behalf of the Ku Klux Klan and a neo-Nazi group so that they could parade in a small town in Illinois, I think it was. The city didn't want to let them parade because they were offended by their message. Obviously, every good American is offended by Nazis and Klansmen. But the ACLU went there and fought for their right to be offensive. Where's the ACLU here? Where are all of these civil rights groups fighting for the rights of these people? They may disagree with the Proud Boys or any of the other January 6th defendants, but these people have been left out without any real representation. No one cares about their rights.
It's really shocking, Larry. No, all of the, libertarians, all the civil rights, all the criminal reform, justice reform advocates, they are nowhere to be found because these people are tied to Donald Trump and tied to the right. They don't care what the government has done to set them up. They don't care what these judges are allowing DOJ to get away with in court. You actually had Judge Tim Kelly say today in court, he confronted a defense attorney who said that this DC Metro police officer was inciting the crowd. And Judge Kelly said, "Oh, I'm surprised to hear you say that chanting would be inciting the crowd." Well, that's exactly what he was doing. So where are these advocacy groups? Nowhere to be found. And certainly there is very little support also, Larry, as you
Yeah.
know, on the right defending these still innocent men who have not yet been convicted.
Yeah, I do know that, and there's a couple of people that I want to bring up. First of all, I made notice that the House Judiciary Committee, we're going to be talking to former Acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker about this a little later in the program, that the Judiciary Committee is going to be holding a hearing in Manhattan to highlight what they're doing to President Trump up there compared to actually enforcing the law in Manhattan. But you made note earlier that you've been asking them to do the same thing, to highlight what's happened to these January 6th defendants, and there doesn't seem to be much interest.
I've recommended to House Republicans that they hold similar types of hearings outside of Washington, D.C., have the January 6 defendants and their families who are victims of a selective political prosecution by this DOJ. Tell the American people what it's like to wake up at 5:30 in the morning and face dozens of armed FBI agents and SWAT vehicles and agents outside their home and in their neighborhood with bullhorns demanding that someone come outside. And these are people who, some of whom aren't even charged with violent offenses, Larry.
Yeah.
So the idea that the Republicans are going outside their lane instead of organizing these hearings, which is critical for the American people to hear, to go to a deep blue city in a deep blue state and talk about crime victims in a city of people who elected the same leadership, instead of focusing on the real travesty of justice, which is the January 6th prosecution, it's a little bit disheartening, to say the least.
To say the least. And by the way, lest anybody think that we're just focusing on House Republicans, as far as I know, none of the presidential candidates have made an issue of this, including President Trump, who, listen, he raised money on the January 6th aftermath. And I don't know, I remember seeing some of your reporting. Not a whole lot of that money has made its way down to the actual suspects, the people who have been arrested for January 6th, or have they? I'd love to know.
I believe that he did donate last year to one of the funds. I know that he's had some of the family members speak at rallies. But in my opinion, and I've made this very clear, it was too little, too late. I understand that he's under the target of numerous criminal investigations, not just what's happening in New York City, but now in Georgia, and certainly Special Prosecutor Jack Smith's a wide-ranging criminal investigation into Donald Trump. But look, these are his supporters. They were there for him. And they said to me, "We were there for him. Where is he for us?"
Yep.
He said and done some things, but in my opinion, not enough. And neither have Republican governors, by the way, who also have a duty to protect the constitutional rights of their constituents.
We got to leave it there, but this is a political issue as well as a law and justice issue. And any Republican running for president, this is a great opportunity to actually set themselves apart. And, oh, by the way, do the right thing. More to come on O'Connor Tonight.